Hi there. Today I want to talk about this book, My Parent Has Cancer and It Really Sucks. Was it worth buying? Is it informative? What kind of point of view and what experts do they talk to? I'll answer all those questions and give you my final thoughts at the end. So if you're curious, stick around. Hey, if you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Grace and I like to talk about my recovery from breast cancer treatment and sort of all the issues around that. I also like to talk about mindful consumerism, living better, and creative exploration. So if that sounds good to you, please consider subscribing, clicking like, leaving a comment, sharing the video. All of that I would really appreciate. Now let's get back to the video. In my last video, I talked about managing the emotions of others and sort of taking care of others. And of course, at the core of that is my family. So when I got diagnosed with breast cancer, I looked around, and for the kids, we looked to arrange counseling, to tell the school, and we did a search for books that might help them. Now, what I found is that there are a ton of books aimed at very young kids or sort of school-age kids, and very, very few aimed at teenagers. This is one that I did find. It's called My Parent Has Cancer and It Really Sucks. It covers a lot of different topics, as you can see. I specifically want to talk about the topic of parentification because I think it's really important and something that is not entirely unique to teens, but really affects teens quite a bit. So parentification is when parents and teens have the expectation that teens step up and help around the house when one parent has cancer. I found this chapter really realistic and really important. I think that some parentification is inevitable. Teens are more capable than younger kids, and of course they're expected to step up and help somewhat. This chapter cautions about introducing too much responsibility and certainly about introducing guilt into the equation. It kind of gives some vocabulary to threading that fine line between letting teens step up and help and just expecting too much from them, which will inevitably lead to resentment. There's also a section in the book explicitly for parents. I recommend parents read the whole book, actually, if they get a chance. There's such a breadth of voices in here. They talk to parents, oncologists, therapists, all kinds of people, and of course dozens of teenagers. And I think what's important there is that no two teenagers react alike, and so you get all these different points of view and reactions from different teenagers. And you can't predict how your teens will react, but this sort of enables you to see some behavior patterns that might happen, and I think is really helpful to say to yourself, okay, I see this, I know what this is, here's how we're going to deal with it. One thing that struck me about the book is the accessibility of the layout. So in a TikTok generation, attention is short, and this book is just really easy to flip through, grab little pieces of information here or there. You can kind of jump in anywhere that is relevant to you and jump out when you need to. And I think that's a really good way to approach it for teens. To give you a little idea of the tone of the book, I'm going to read some from the introduction. So it says, teens, this book is for you. You may recognize yourself in the pages ahead. Your worries, your fears, your optimism, your pessimism, your anger, your sense of humor, your feelings of despair, your hopelessness. That's because we talked to more than 100 teenagers all across the country. While no two teens are alike, you'll probably find voices that echo your thoughts and feelings, providing a sense of comfort, like that feeling you get when you find out someone else likes the same weird movies as you do. We hope that the voices in this book create a community of support to give you strength as you deal with your parents' cancer. Because if you can learn from the 2020 hindsight and mistakes of others who've been there, you'll be better prepared to handle the situations that you will encounter. If you only want to read one little part of the introduction, I recommend the 2 rules. So the rule number 1 is teens don't feel guilty. You have your own way of coping and you don't have to behave like any other teen in this book. Rule number 2, Parents, do not use this book to make your teen talk if he or she doesn't want to talk. I think we all know that if teens don't want to do something, it's not going to happen. At the end, there's a really exhaustive list of resources. Now, this book is older. It was published in 2013. So some of these resources might be outdated, but honestly, a lot of these organizations are long-standing organizations, and I'm sure that you can still find them. I also want to point out that there's a website for the book. Now, the website has a blog that I think has gone a little bit stale, but there's a resources list there too, and if you go there, you can look through and see different resources. It is US based, but a lot of organizations have an international presence, so if you're not in the US, it's still worth a look. My thoughts are that this book is highly worth getting. It's got just such a breadth of voices, such a breadth of points of view, and it's really accessible. But there's one big caveat, and that is, just like with counseling, you can't force a teen or anyone really to go to counseling and for it to work. You can't force them to read this book. And in fact, my son didn't read it, he told me, and my daughter said she started reading it, but then she got a little bit upset, and so she stopped. And so that leads to my second recommendation. I got this like right away. I think I even ordered it on Amazon before we told the kids, like less than 24 hours before, but still. And it does talk about some upsetting things, like when a parent dies and when their prognosis is bad. This isn't just breast cancer, it's any cancer. So I would recommend that you wait until the initial shock is over. And you'll just have to watch your teen and see how that goes. Because I think once the initial shock is over, they'll be ready to absorb the information in here. And there's a lot of information in here. There's factual information about cancer, what it is, how it works. There's a lot of myth busting, which I think is great. It normalizes the dark and scary thoughts that teens can sometimes have. It does this all without any kind of judgment, just sort of a welcome, open, like this is the breadth of human experience and how you may react to your parents' cancer. It gives excellent advice, and it balances optimism and realism in a time that's really difficult for anyone. I was really worried about how my cancer was going to affect my teens, and I'm sure that if you're watching this video, you are too. I was worried about their loss of innocence, and I had endless negative scenarios running through my head. So I want to end this video on a positive note, reading from the book. This is from social worker Barbara Golby. I truly believe that a parent's cancer is a real opportunity to teach so many important lessons and skills for life, such as empathy, such as open and honest communication, such as showing how families can come together in a crisis and work as a team and be stronger for it. Teenagers will say they wish it didn't happen, but having had the experience is a big part of what made them who they are. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you want more content about my cancer recovery and my explorations into living better after cancer. I'll see you in the next video, and in the meantime, stay curious. Bye.